So about a week ago, two people were shot in a Israeli embassy that I believe was near the capital. It was in Washington, definitely. I'm not sure how close it was, but that doesn't really matter. Now, this was a big story that broke of a man going into the Israeli embassy in Washington and fatally shot two staff members. We have this article from AP News. The man accused of fatally shooting two staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington outside a Jewish museum told police after his arrest, "I did it for Palestine, I did it for Gaza." Federal authorities said Thursday in announcing charges in the killings they called a targeted act of terrorism. Elias Rodriguez, 31, shouted "Free Palestine" as he was led away from his arrest, according to charging documents that provided chilling new details of the Wednesday night shootings in the nation's capital that killed an American woman and an Israeli man who had just left an event at the museum. They were set to become engaged. Now that there is like pretty weird framing, but honestly I think it's just a way for them to like humanize these people a bit, being like they almost got engaged. I believe like they found that he had a engagement ring on him, and that's why they you'll see this be brought up a lot and like a bunch of articles be like they were going to become engaged, as a big thing. Now obviously this is something that spread like wildfire in the media, but to me this is not the main focus I want to put on this, because honestly I don't really care all that much. And that's not saying that like I condone this, that I applaud what this guy did. This is not how you should protest by any means, by just shooting two embassy workers who really have no power whatsoever, who are main figures. It's not like the Luigi Mangione case where he targeted someone who was very high profile, who was the CEO of United Healthcare, someone who had a lot of power, a lot of motion. These are just two randos. It's like if Luigi instead shot like the secretary. Like that wouldn't mean much. Like that's not, a high profile, attack. But with this, it's the case of like the reason why this got boosted to the level it did is mostly because, it was at an Israeli embassy. It's probably like the first, I would say, major form of like violence from a pro-Palestine advocate. But to me, this is nothing. Like, especially when you compare it to like how many children, how many people are getting starved in Gaza. Obviously, what this is meant to do is just stir up, pro-Israeli sentiment, being like, look at all these violent pro-Palestinian protesters. Look at what they're doing now. Even though it's just one guy who clearly just like, his limit broke and he just kind of broke himself and was just kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna go and just, the first two people I see, I'm just gonna get them. But you can tell the way that the media tried to spin this narrative to really make this an anti-Semitic attack. If you look at JD Vance's tweet right here, now when you first look at this, you're just like, okay, well, I mean, he literally says right here, anti-Semitic violence has no place in the United States. But the thing that they failed to mention in this article, and that JD Vance fails to mention in this tweet, is that this dude is Christian. Like, he's a Christian. He's not Jewish. And we know that because of this tweet right here from a friend of the victims who said that he was a devout Christian and a gifted linguist. He spoke German, Hebrew, and Japanese. So we know from someone close to him that he wasn't Jewish. So I don't know how this makes it an anti-Semitic attack. And we can tell from an earlier version of JD Vance's tweet where he had to fix it after learning that at least the male victim wasn't Jewish, by saying, "My heart breaks for the two Jews who were murdered last night in the Capitol Jewish Museum. Anti-Semitic violence has no place in the United States." But then he had to tweak it a bit, even though he still kept this part, despite the fact that it was shown that this guy isn't Jewish. So like they're trying to make something that was clearly an attack on it was just like some guy who just kind of lost his way a bit and was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go to this embassy building, not for anti-Semitic reasons, just because he hates Israel for the obvious shit that it has done. Again, this is not me like cheering on what the guy did. It's what he did was terrible. It's not going to result in anything. It's a dumb thing to do, but it's very disgusting how people have been talking about this, especially the head of the ADL, the Apartheid Defense League, as a lot of people like to call it. The head of the ADL directly blames Hasan Piker for the DC shooting. The full force of the US government is about to come down on him. When these things happen, politicians look for a scapegoat to show that they're doing something. Hasan will be the guy. So yeah, this is the head of the ADL on CNN.
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hasan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state.
Yeah, when he says that like Gaza's a human being, that Palestinians are human beings who don't deserve to be genocided, that's a anti-Semitic genocidal language that needs to be deplatformed.
Extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this, because
this is also just gross. You're making this, murder. You're making this murder that's obviously meant as the motive behind the guy was, I'm tired, I'm sick of what Israel is doing in Gaza. And it was very clear that he was just his marbles were gone, and we're just like, I'm just gonna do this. It was a guy who was critical of Israel, and these fucking monsters are just like, let's turn this in a way to deplatform pro-Palestine protesters who aren't even cheering this on. Who aren't. There are literally organizations that are not taking responsibility. They're not, cheering on the actions. They try to stay away from it because they know, A, it's not a good look for them, and B, they don't condone this. They don't cheer this stuff on. The objective is to do this non-violently, to do it peacefully, but in a way that still, makes it difficult on the powers that be, in a way that doesn't get them imprisoned or shot at. But some people, when you push them so hard, they're just going to get pushed to their limit, and they will do some crazy shit. Again, that's not me condoning what happened, but to look at something that was purely an act, a misguided act of, trying to, of just being sick of a genocidal state and turning it into all these people just hate Jews, is gross and disgusting. It's also a terrible way to memorialize these people. It's the same thing with that one girl who got murdered by a illegal immigrant, and then they had an entire act out of her, and her mom was using her name even though the other family members did not want her to be remembered this way. It's a gross way to try to use someone's death to push your own personal agenda. And now, while this directly didn't cause Hasan to be banned, this situation in effect did. I mean, not this guy going on CNN, but Hasan did cover the motivations of the shooter. He even brought up his manifesto, which isn't something that's uncommon, but with this one, because it has to deal with, Israel, all of a sudden it's taken more seriously. But here we have Hasan, I covered the motives of the Israeli embassy staff shooter. Twitch TOS dictates a suspension for even critical examination of the manifesto. I saw him talk about this. I remember when he brought it up, and he even said himself, he was this isn't the right way to do it. He was critically talking against it. There were even people who were trying to say that he was saying that the attack was a false flag, even though he literally never did. He never said it was a false flag. He literally would argue with his own chatters of being no, this isn't a false flag. This is just a guy who kind of went nuts. This is just someone who is pro-Palestine who went nuts and did this very stupid thing that's not going to result in any changes, except for probably more than likely more pressure on pro-Palestinian voices as such. I believe this is bad policy for news and press freedom. I'll take the suspension, but hope Twitch changes the policy in the future. So, we got this little email that he shared. Hello, Hasan Abi. Twitch is committed to keeping our community safe for everyone, and as a point, we require our users to ensure, TOS message. But the reasoning is improper handling of terrorist propaganda, sharing content related to terrorist or violent extremist groups. Examples of violative conduct include, but are not limited to, showing a violent extremist manifesto on a stream while denouncing it, speaking out terrorist organizations while displaying a recruitment video. Here's the thing, like, even in this reason, they're stating that the reason he got banned is he still showed it even though he was denouncing it. And to me, like, this is stupid. Like, it would be one thing if he was cheering it on. Like, if he was cheering it on, then, like, absolutely he would deserve to be banned. Like, that's like an enforcement of TOS that I agree with. Like, if you're sharing this, like, very violent manifesto and are just like, yeah, this is how you should do shit, then yeah, like, I agree, he should be banned for that. But that's not what he was doing. And I think banning someone for being like, hey, look at this extremely violent manifesto, don't do this, this is stupid, don't do this. There's other ways to show your allegiance to the pro-Palestinian cause than by doing this violent extremist thing. But, like, that's something that should be good, like, regardless of being like, of like helping de-radicalize people who might be on that precipice from seeing, like, you know, how little has really changed, at least in terms of, like, you know, the powers that be with their activism. Like, I think that's a good thing, but apparently for Twitch, it's just, I don't know, it's weird. And the thing is that people have even brought up receipts and being like, you know, it's kind of funny how this only happens once, you know, a Zionist was killed. Like what it says here, a Zionist was killed this time, so it's a big deal. Like, he has brought up other manifestos before, but nothing ever happened. Like, a Cybertruck explosion manifesto here, never got banned for this. Luigi Mangione manifesto, never got banned for this. Ryan Ruth, Wisconsin school shooter, all of these were good. Like, because, and here's the thing, this is not me saying like, oh, they should have banned him for this too. Like, because it is good to understand where someone's motivations is coming from to help people who might be, you know, close to those fringes, who are like close to doing it, like try to get them off the edge, being like, here's what's wrong with this person's worldview, and this is why you shouldn't ever get to that. Because, you know, there are mentally ill people out there, of course, like school shootings, you know, mass shootings in general have like increased year over year. So doing something like this, being like, here's what this person believed, this is what drove them to do this sort of thing, and let me speak out against this sort of shit, it's a good thing in general. Or at least just trying to explain. Like, just saying like shit like this happens doesn't do anything, and trying to explain it, you know, definitely helps for a lot of people. But, you know, it's not a big deal until, you know, a Zionist is killed. But, you know, this guy, but to me it's just so stupid. Like, you can't do this on Twitch, and like, you can't, you know, speak out against a violent act on Twitch, I guess, but we have little prime ministers saying shit like this.
Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler.
Like, this is the world we live in, where like insane fucking Zionists have like a lot of power in our society, that we can get away with like someone saying fucking increasingly terrible shit like this. Like, this is abhorrent. And if he wants to, like, you know, say that a certain group of people are, you know, acting like Nazis, maybe he should look at his own fucking country. Maybe he should look at their own goddamn mirror, because he is only a small mustache away from essentially just being Jewish Hitler. Because that's what he's doing. From being Israeli Hitler. Like, I don't... Like, if I'm looking at a group of people who, except for this one instance, has been incredibly peaceful and is saying, like, hey, you don't have the right to genocide this entire group of people, and then I look at another group who is enacting a lot of Nazi shit, a lot of, like, you know, Nazi Germany type actions, like camps, like torture camps, essentially concentration camps, you know, starving mass groups, keeping them in segregated parts that they can control. I wonder which ones are more like the Nazis. I wonder which ones, the group that's doing like systematic killings, I wonder if they're kind of like Nazis. That's what Zionists are. They're just fucking Nazis. They're just fucking fascists. It's insanely fucking gross. But like, this guy, who should be facing a lot more criticism, doesn't get any pushback at all. Not even a little bit. Like, nobody's like, yo, like, nobody with actual power is just like, yo, you gotta like tone it back, man. You gotta like really ease it back. You can't be saying that people calling for a free Palestine are the same as Nazis. But if you dare to criticize, but if you dare cover the reasonings as to what drove someone to commit a heinous act that you yourself don't even support, then you need to be deplatformed, because we can't have you being pro-Palestine on our platform. Now, he has been unbanned So I don't know. It could have been a result of like a mass reporting, because obviously there's like a bunch of like fucking insane people online who would just like send their audiences to like mass harass creators for being pro-Palestine. People like Destiny, people like Ethan Klein, shit like that. So it could have been a result of that, of like mass reporting, to the point where Twitch was just like, okay, we're just gonna have to, it's just like an automatic ban or something like that, and then he found a way to repeal it. But it's still gross. And it also sends a message to that group of people, if this is the case, because this is all just alleged, that if you could do this to someone who doesn't have as much like of like a kind of as much of a following, as much power on Twitch as like Hasan does, as one of the biggest streamers out there, and if you're a pro-Palestinian voice, then you could go after someone who's like has a smaller audience, and they would probably face harsher consequences. I mean, that's what happened with like those 5 pro-Palestinian creators who got banned for like a month, like Denims, Frogan, I forget who else. I think it was like Caprice and Poppy, who all got like banned for a month because of that stupid fucking hummus tier list that Ethan Klein just refuses to actually like look at the full context of, and he's just like, no, you just hate Jews. You just hate Jews because I said so. Because I can't tell like that this is just supposed to be a joke, even though I'm a comedian. Heavy quotations on the comedian part. But it's just insane. Like, I think this is just like such a dumb way to handle this shit, of being like, even if you're critical of this event, of like what transpired, because again, it's fucking gross. Like, yeah, like it's not gonna result in anything. You just killed 2 people for like you just killed 2 people and nothing's gonna happen. Like, that sucks. But at the same time, like, we're getting to the point where I think it's just someone who kind of lost their marbles a bit, and was just like, I tried to be pro-Palestine, I tried to fight back against the system, but nothing's working. The longer our government just continues to allow Israel to do whatever it wants, yet some people are just gonna have enough, and they're gonna do shit like this, and it's not good. I don't want this to fucking happen. I don't want things to get worse, but this is what happens when there's minimal change, when you don't see any real change happening in your system, when your cause doesn't seem to do that much. But this isn't me, but like at the same time, you just kind of have to hold on. You can't become like this, because they will just use this. They will use this act of terror to be like, this is why we gotta be harsher on pro-Palestinian voices, and it's only gonna get worse. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see more videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you would like to check out my gaming videos, you can follow me at FruitySaur Gaming. And if you'd like to check out my podcast where I talk about anime, comics, movies, video games, and even pro wrestling, you can follow me at The Fruit Basket. But that's all I had to say for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you next time.